Nash, Nash wants to be on stage today. All right. So they unpack all the boxes. Oh my goodness. It's all good. It's all good. Y'all, let's stop and pray for Nash. I've been that kid before. Don't let me go. All right. They unpack the boxes, look through them, repack the boxes, and send them out all over the world. Now, here's the thing. We need volunteers to go to Dallas and take about a 6-hour shift is usually what we do. About a 6-hour shift of going through the boxes, looking through them, putting extra stuff in there. That's what I like doing. I like just cramming that thing full, all right? And just going through and looking at the boxes. So we have a shift. We didn't bought into anything, all right? We volunteered for a shift on December 7th, all right? If you would like to be a part of that group, I think we have about 20, 25, 30, 90 people who can go, something like that. All right. If you want to go, come see me. It is really a fun time. The time flies by. You're getting to just go through all these, praying over all of these boxes. It's just an awesome time just to be able to go and do that. All right. So if you are interested in that, come and see me. I don't see Brenda here today. All right. But come and see me, and we'll get you signed up for that group. We'll all drive over together or something like that. And it's just a good time. If you did not go with us yesterday for the Tacos for Life, anybody eating at Tacos for Life? I would say go eat there today, but they're closed on Sunday. So don't go eat there today, all right? But go eat there sometime this week. Their philosophy is you buy a meal and they send a meal out. Well, 15 of us, if there were 15 or 20, how many showed up, Tiffany? Was there about 15 of us? 15 or 20 showed up yesterday, and we prepared these little bag meal things that they send out, that Tacos for Life sends out all over the world. And so we had a blast yesterday just doing that, just preparing those meals and preparing those boxes of meals. How many boxes did we end up doing? Y'all remember? 200 something boxes of meals, which was 36 meals per box. So we did like 200 of those. So 5 pallets. That's right. Robert was packing all the pallets. So 5 pallets. So they'll be sending those out. And so it was a good time. Here's what I'm begging you. Quit missing out on opportunities to do something awesome like this. All right? I appreciate the fact that college football was on yesterday. And maybe you had some other stuff to do. I'm just saying, if there's an opportunity for you to jump in and do something beautiful, you're going to feel a whole lot better about yourself having done that than you will if you sat at home. All right? That's all I'm saying. You will feel infinitely better. Just step out. I used to tell people, we used to go to the homeless shelter back when we were in Atlanta. And I would say, people, just go. They're like, but I don't know. No, just go. Invariably, people come to me, thank you for making me go. Thank you for twisting my arm, because I was blessed for having been there. I was blessed for having done that. You will be blessed. Do not let anyone get in your way on these things. So, all right. Ladies Pursuit Bible Study. Because of the scheduling conflict, Ashley's going to have to be out of town. We are not going to have Pursuit this month. All right, ladies? So just be real clear. No Pursuit on Thursday. We will come back next month, same as always, and take care of all that. That's good enough. That's good enough. Again, new and prospective members, just join us for lunch. We'll have a good time. We'll have a good time of fellowship and just learning about that and all those things. So, all right. Hey, if you're a visitor with us, we've got cards in the back of the little chairs in front of you. Grab one of those and just give us as much or as little information as you would like to. It helps us to have a record of your visit. We want to be able to know who you are and how to contact you and all those things. So again, fill out one of those cards. Just throw it in one of the offering plates in the back. If you have offering today and you're not normally with us, we don't do the whole passy plate thing all the time. We only do that on the first Sunday of the month. So if you have an offering of something, just throw those in the offering plates in the back. So, all right, let's pray and let's get to worshiping today. Father, we thank you for just an amazing opportunity that we have, that we get to step out of our rut, step out of the week-to-week life. We get to walk into a building with just beautiful people, our church family. We get to walk in here and we get to study. study these beautiful scriptures that you've maintained for us for thousands and thousands of years. Father, we get to study something that was written 3,000 years ago today. And I praise you and I worship you because you have preserved that for us. So Father, may we not take it for granted. May we not think of it as just that book, but that we would value it and treasure it for all that you've made it to be in our lives. So Father, walk among us today. I pray that your Holy Spirit would have free reign. That today, maybe for the first time, someone will come to know you as Savior and Lord. But even more, that many of you in this room today will see God in a new way today. And you'll begin to live the life that God has called you to. So I pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Stop beating, my soul will keep on singing, even louder, even louder, even when my eyes can't see, I'll sing till I believe it, even louder, even louder, yeah, till I believe it. If the drums stop beating, my soul will keep on singing, even louder, even louder, even when my eyes can't see it, I'll sing till I believe it, even louder, even louder. turn to you. Hope is stirring, hearts are yearning for you. We long for you, 'cause when we see you, we find strength to face the day. In your presence, all our fears are washed away, washed away. Hosanna, Hosanna, you are the God who saves us, worthy of all our praises. Hosanna, Hosanna, come have your way among us. We welcome you here, Lord Jesus. Hear the sound. Hear the sound of hearts returning to you. We turn to you. In your kingdom, broken lives are made new. You make us new. 'Cause when we see you, we find strength to face the day. 'Cause in your presence, all our fears are washed away, washed away. Hosanna, Hosanna, you are the God who saves us, worthy of all our praises. Hosanna, Hosanna, come have your way among us. Welcome you here, Lord Jesus. Sing it out this morning. Hosanna, Hosanna, you are the God who saves us, worthy of all our praises. Hosanna, Hosanna, come have your way among us. Welcome you here, Lord Jesus. Hosanna, Hosanna, you are the God who saves us, worthy of all our praises. Hosanna, Hosanna, come have your way among us. We welcome you here, Lord Jesus.
Amen. 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 Welcome to Crosspoint this morning when we are so excited that you are with us. Isn't it a good day to be in the presence of the Lord this morning?
Amen.
Amen. Hey, I think we can do a little better than that. Isn't it great to be in the presence of the Lord this morning?
Amen.
Amen. Praise God. I love what the doxology says, praise God from whom all blessings flow. Praise God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Do we believe that this morning that we serve a God who is three in one, that he is the Father, that he is the Son, and he is the Comforter, he's the Holy Spirit? And this morning, man, we get to praise that God, right? We get to come together corporately as a body, as a family, and lift high the name of Jesus. And that is what we are doing this morning. And this isn't for us. I mean, this is all about Jesus. Amen. Amen. Hey, we are glad that you're here. If you're a visitor with us, we're especially glad that you're here. But this morning, man, we believe that we need to greet people in the name of the Lord, right? We need to love on each other. We need to edify each other. We need to lift people up. So this morning, welcome somebody. Tell them you're glad to see them. Give them a hug. And just, man, appreciate each other this morning, all right?
right. Find your way back. I almost forgot that I was supposed to be here because I'm a talker. So I'm out talking to everybody, and I was like, it's a long greet time. Well, it's a long greet time because I wasn't up here to start talking to you in the greet time. My fault, my bad. That's okay. It's all right. There have been so many things going through my mind, hopefully through yours too, as you work through. The Bible says that we kind of work through our salvation, that there's so much. Say hi to Chloe. Not to embarrass her or anything. That you work through your salvation. And so as I've been thinking recently, and we're going through Romans on Wednesday nights. So if you're here on Wednesday nights and you're going through that book, it's a powerful book. And it is an in-your-face book about your salvation and your Savior and who you are. And the thing that gets me is that it's who you are down to the core. Not the you that everybody sees necessarily on a daily basis, or any sort of mask you might put on, or any sort of problem that you might cover up, or things that you've never told anyone, or any of that. It is down to the depths of your being, who you are in Christ, and the you that God sees. So this morning, what I want you to think about while we're having our prayer time, and when we pray in a second, is who are you and where are you, I guess, in your mind and heart right now, this morning? Because it is a lot easier to drive up here and sing and say the words and listen to a sermon and pray and even agree in prayer than it is to really, really dig deep and deal with where you are. I believe you can come to church. Y'all know how I feel about that. You come to worship. We are the church. You don't come to church. You come to worship with the church. But it's much easier to come to worship than it is to actually come and worship and lay your soul out before Him and self-evaluate and really look at where you are. So I want you to think about where you are this morning, right now. Just you, not the person next to you, not your kids, not your spouse. You. Where are you? Paul says in Philippians 1:21, he says, for me to live is Christ, nothing else. If I'm alive, I live, eat, and breathe Christ. And to die is gain. So if they kill me, awesome. That's fine. But as long as I'm breathing, my life is Christ. I wake up and I'm faced with the reality of who I am and who He is and what I did and what He did in response to what I did. It's the first thing I think about when I wake up. It's the last thing I think about when I go to bed. I can't read His scriptures without it hitting me in the face. What He's done for me. Scripture is really clear, too, about what it looks like to take a deep look, that it is the importance of actually being sorry for what we've done. There's a pendulum that I really believe that some people spend their life beating themselves up because of their sin. They're horrible, they're wicked, they're not okay. And the Bible says that's not okay either. The Bible says you are a saint. You are saved and you are righteous in my eyes. But you are those things because you were really sorry, genuinely sorry for your sin. And then it says, there is no remission, no removal of your sin without repentance. So repentance, another big church word, meaning to agree with God and you turn from that sin. Does it mean that you will never sin again? Bless America. No, it does not mean that. It means you don't want to and that you don't agree with it and you're enormously sorry for it. But when you find yourself in a place where you're not really sorry, you kind of pay lip service to repentance and you're like, I know I shouldn't have done that. Forgiven though. you're in a really dangerous place. So today, I want us to self-evaluate, and I want us to take a look at our hearts and say, where am I right now, this morning, on this day with him? Am I really sorry, or have I grown callous to my own sin? Am I really repentant? Do I not want to do these things anymore? Or do I know I probably will? Doesn't even matter that much to me. And I think he's good, and I love him, kind of, and I like showing up here. It makes me feel better. Or are you broken and in awe of what he did because of the sin that you were so sorry for? And you cannot wait to get here to say, thank you so much, because I know I didn't deserve it, and you did it anyway. And tomorrow I'm not going to deserve it, and you're going to do it anyway. And I'm going to keep being sorry, and you're going to keep working out my salvation in me. So we're going to pray right now. And I want you to really look inward so that we are not the Pharisee that thought that he was like this with God, and Jesus came to him, first people he came to, and said, you are not like this with me. You just think you are. I don't want us to be those people. I want us to be broken and on our faces and worshiping and joyful. So pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to be broken by our sin every single day. We don't want to be a people that glides through life in a fog, going to work, taking care of our kids, eating, sleeping, somewhat having relationships, only to wake up the next day and do the same thing. We want to be people who to live is Christ. To live is Christ. That there isn't anything else. And everything in our life will be filtered through living Christ. From the minute we wake up to the moment we go to sleep. Whatever you have to do to remind each of our hearts how to get back closer to you, how to draw into your side, what we need to do differently, what message we need to hear from you. Pray that you would open our ears to hear. I pray that you would lay bare the things that are keeping us from you. Draw us into your side. Lord God, we praise you in this time for your forgiveness, for your mercy, for your patience that wait for us when our life isn't Christ. But what an empty life that is. Fill us today, Father. Call us by name, make us yours. And absorb our praise for who you are this morning. Thank you for your Son. Thank you profoundly for our forgiveness. In his name I pray. Amen.
Raise a hallelujah in the presence of my enemies. I raise a hallelujah louder than the unbelief. I raise a hallelujah. My weapon is a melody. I raise a hallelujah raise a hallelujah. Fear, you've lost your hold on me. Come on, we're gonna sing out. And I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. Sing a little louder. Sing a little louder. Come on, sing a little. Sing a little louder. Sing a little louder. Come on, sing a little louder. Sing a little louder. Come on, we sing louder. Sing a little louder. Come on, sing a little louder. Sing a little louder, my weapon. Sing a little louder. Come on, I'm gonna sing. I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storms. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King. Come on, sing it out. I'm gonna sing in the middle of the storm. Louder and louder, you're gonna hear my praises roar. Up from the ashes, hope will arise. Death is defeated, the King is alive. I raise a hallelujah. 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 Amen, amen. There's a place where mercy reigns and never dies. There's a place where streams of grace flow deep and wide. All the love I've ever found comes like a flood, comes flowing down. At the cross, I surrender my life. I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of you. Where your love red in my sin washed white. I owe to you. I owe to you, Jesus. I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of you. Where your love red, red, and my sin washed white. I owe all to you. I owe all to you. At the cross, I surrender my life. I'm in awe of you. I'm in awe of you. Where your love red, red, and my sin washed white. I owe all to you. I owe all to you, Jesus. Here my hope is found, here on holy ground. Here I bow down, here I bow down. Here, arms open wide. Here, you save my life. Here I bow down, here I bow down. Lord, we bow before you this morning in praise. Lord, we are humbled by your presence, and we praise you with all that is in us this morning. Lord, and I pray that every heart and mind is focused on you this morning, Lord, and that we're going to get absolutely everything you have for us out of this message. We love you and we praise you. Amen.
All right, kiddos, head for the hills. I love that song, At the Cross. Yeah, and y'all remember our favorite hymn nights? Maybe on Sunday night or something, back in the day. So yeah, some of y'all don't know this. My dad was a minister of music literally all my life. Up until the day he died, he was a minister of music. And so we would have favorite hymn night. So my brother and I, we would sit sort of in the back row as far back as God. As mom and dad would allow us without yanking us back in. And so my brother and I are in the back, and we're doing At the Cross, the old rugged cross. We're like all cross. And I'm sure that people are like, what are these people? These really bloodthirsty little kids back here that are just the ministry music's kids. But we just kept asking for them. And Dad, we keep singing them because he loves singing them too. So every time I hear At the Cross, that reminds me of that. Hey, I'm going to be in 2 Chronicles 13. So we're going through the kings of Judah. And last week we talked about Rehoboam. So what we did, we skipped over Saul, David, and Solomon because they reigned over the entirety of the kingdom. And we're jumping into where the kingdom is split. So the kings of Judah are going to be the kings of the two southern tribes, Judah and Benjamin. And the kings of the northern tribes will be called the kings of Israel, okay? So they're going to be supporting characters in our play, but we're going to be focusing on these actual characters. Today, we're going to talk about the king Abijah. All right, people call him Abijah. They call him all sorts of stuff. I'm going to call him Abijah, probably. All right, hopefully I'll stick with one thing, and we'll go through this. His name literally means God is my father. All right, the at the end of a word generally refers to the Jehovah or Yahweh, and Ab is the word for father. Abba, father, which we get Abraham became the father of many nations. So when we see Ab, and when we see we get God as our Father. Okay, just a little preface here before we roll into this thing. So, and my voice is a little iffy. I mowed yesterday, and so all of that dust and stuff just decided to just land right in my throat. But I have my crack cocaine drink that I drink. Are these good? Anybody have? I'm gonna go here. All right, commercial for Lipton tea. They'll owe me. Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at 13. In the 18th year of Israel's king Jeroboam, Abijah became king over Judah and reigned 3 years in Jerusalem. A short reign, all right? So a little short reign. His mother's name was Micaiah, daughter of Uriel. She was from Gibeah. There was war between Abijah and Jeroboam, all right? The north and the south, all right? We got the civil war thing going back here. Abijah set his army of warriors in order with 400,000 choice men. Jeroboam arranged his mighty army of 800,000 choice men in battle formation against him. Then Abijah took his stand on Mount Zemaraim. Sorry, I've been practicing that all week. Zemaraim, which is in the hill country of Ephraim. All right? And he's going to make a speech. Now, if you were wondering why we have a center aisle that's slightly off center, all right? I messed with Liam this morning. I said, Liam, you're supposed to straighten out the chairs, not mess them up. I said, this is the center row. And he's just dumbfounded. How could this have possibly happened? So here's what I was trying to kind of illustrate with this. So this is a small section. So you guys are y'all are the good guys in the story. All right? Good job. You chose well today. All right? So y'all are the 400,000. You guys, the rest of y'all, are the bad guys. You're the 800,000. Okay? So, and like most of y'all are going to die today anyway. Okay? So you will put you out of your misery. I don't know how many of you guys live or died, but it doesn't say. But 500,000 of you are going to die. So I died at church today. Maybe you can post that on Facebook. Okay? All right. So we have this king, and it's Abijah, and he's only going to reign 3 years. And he's got a real problem with the way Jeroboam has been treating him and I believe his father. Now, I want us to do a little math on this. Sorry, some of y'all just went, oh no, I felt that break. Now, Abijah's father, Rehoboam, became king when he was 41 years old, okay? Now, they started having kids and siring kids, if you want to call it that, probably about the age of 16 or so. So it's very likely that Abijah was probably about 25 years old when his father became king, all right? And what does he see immediately when his father becomes king? The first thing out of the box is what? Is this split. And this Jeroboam guy rises up and takes his ball and goes home to the northern tribes, leaving his father there. And again, you think your father is 40, early 40s, you're 25, you're watching all this. You saw your grandfather Solomon reigning over all this stuff and just perfect awesomeness, all right? And then as soon as he gets in, your father has part of the kingdom ripped away from him. Now, what will that do to you? You see, Rehoboam grows up with what? Everything's good, everything's great. Solomon was awesome, Solomon's wise. There's silver on the ground that nobody's even bothering to pick up. They were so wealthy. But Abijah is going to grow up with a different experience. And what he sees from the time he's probably about 25 years old up until the time he takes over as king in his early 40s, we just don't know how old he was. All he's seen is that Jeroboam guy. That Jeroboam guy, he led these people away. He did all these things. So we have this battle that forms up. And this is the only episode that the chronicler actually talks about in the text. This is the only thing we get with Abijah's life. And so he lines up his 400,000 choice, strong, mighty warriors, right? Y'all feeling strong? All right. Y'all are going to do awesome things. Not because you did it. Y'all are going to cry like little baby girls, but all right. And then we got the 800,000 lined up here. And you got to understand, Abijah steps up on the side of this mountain and cries out imagine crying out to 800,000 people, all right? And so this is what he's going to do. He's going to cry out to Jeroboam and all Israel. So pick up with me here, backside of verse 4. It says, Jeroboam and all Israel, hear me. Don't you know that the Lord God of Israel gave the kingship over Israel to David and his descendants forever by a covenant of salt? So what's Abijah saying right out of the box? I'm the king, not him. I'm the one who's supposed to be. God gave us to all over Israel. All Israel is supposed to be my families. And you've taken your 10 northern tribes and you've run away and you're wrong. All right, and look at this text. Look at what it says. He gave the kingship over Israel to David and his descendants forever by a covenant of salt. Now, that's an interesting phrase. The theory is this. When you put salt on something, it does what to it? Obviously, it makes it saltier, but if you take something and you put salt in it, how much bacteria builds up in it? How quickly does it decay? The implication is it was a covenant of salt. That means it's preserved. Means it will not decay. It will stay strong forever and ever and ever, whatever you're going to say. Okay? So if you're going, what's this covenant of salt? That's the idea. It's just a preserving agent that he puts in this thing. Now, does he have the whole story here? Because if you go back at the end of Solomon's reign, Solomon does something. He starts marrying all these foreign women. All right, how many wives does Solomon have? Anybody got a number? 700, 300 concubines. All right, there's a lot of women around everywhere. And marries them from all the different tribes all over the place. And what does he do with all of his wives' gods? He starts making, Asherah poles for them and high places over here and gives them all places where they can worship. And God says, no. I'm going to take the 10 northern tribes away from you. He sends a guy named Abijah to Jeroboam and says, Jeroboam, I'm going to give you these 10 northern tribes. And if you will be faithful and loyal to me, you will have a lasting dynasty just as David will. All right? But Abijah steps up on Mount Zemaraim. Got it that time. All right? He steps on Zemaraim and says, God gave them to me and to my family. And if I'm Jeroboam, I'm going, no, he didn't. He took them away from you and your family. But he's making a case. He's a good politician. Let's just put it that way. Because a politician does what? He presents his case in what most favorable light to him and is most negative to the others. So we do get this descendants for everything, though. In verse 6, but Jeroboam, see, I'm supposed to be the king, but Jeroboam, son of Nebat, a servant of Solomon, why throw that in there? Your king is a servant to my grandfather. See, just taking a little shot at him. A servant of Solomon, son of David, rose up and rebelled against his Lord. Now, does that sound like what we talked about last week? Rose up and rebelled? What did he do? He went, hey, king, you mind taking it easy on us? Your dad worked just really hard, and we just like a little break. And he comes back and says all this mean stuff to him. That doesn't really sound like rebellion, but again, he's a politician. He's making his case. Then, not only does he rebel, then worthless and wicked men gathered around him to resist Rehoboam, son of Solomon. When poor Rehoboam, was young and inexperienced and unable to assert himself against them. Poor Rehoboam. Do y'all feel sorry for Rehoboam? Because Abijah, the son, is going, Dad just didn't know what he was doing. He was young and inexperienced and unable to assert himself. Now, didn't he assert himself pretty well? Remember when they came and said, please just give us a break. Just don't work so hard. So he goes to the elders, and their advice is what? Be nice to them. They'll serve you forever. He goes to the young bucks. And what do the young bucks say? Crazy young bucks, right, Luke? All right? They're always going to give you bad advice, right? He says, go to them and say, my little finger is thicker than my father's waist. All right? And he used whips against you, and I'm going to use barbed whips against you. Now, does that sound like a man who's unable to assert himself? But again, Abijah's making the case. He's almost trying to portray his father as what? The helpless victim of these bad guys, you bad guys who follow Jeroboam and run away with the kingdom. And we good guys, we're just here to protect what God has given us, right? Amen? Y'all are awesome. Y'all are awesome this morning, all right? Verse 8. And now you are saying, you can assert yourself against the Lord's kingdom, which is in the hand of one of David's sons. That would be myself, Abijah. Now, here's what I find interesting. Now you say you can assert yourselves against the Lord's kingdom. Where are they? Geographically. Look back up at the top here. In verse 4, it says, then Abijah stood on Mount Zemaraim, which is in the hill country of Ephraim. Now, is Ephraim on y'all's side? Or is Ephraim on your land? It's on y'all's land, all right? The 10 northern tribes, okay? So you guys, who started this fight? Who crossed over? You guys packed up and went over into their land, and Abijah is sitting over here going, you guys think you can assert yourself? To which I would go, who's on whose property? When your neighbor comes onto your property and starts yelling at you, who's asserting themselves in this moment? You see what I'm saying here? So again, he's spinning this thing. He's playing this thing. But he's trying to make a case. He's trying to convince them. And now you're saying, verse 8, who can assert yourselves against the Lord's kingdom, which is in the hand of one of David's sons? You are a vast number and have with you the golden calves that Jeroboam made for you as gods. Now, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Golden calves in the hands of Jewish people is children of Israel. That's a bad thing. How'd it go the first time they tried the golden calf? It went south pretty quick, right? And he says, not only do you have one golden calf, but you have two golden calves with you that you serve as gods. And I almost think here Abijah sitting up here and saying, or Abijah saying, hey, God, are you listening? You listening to see what they're doing? All right? Those of you that have multiple kids, when your kid tells on the other kid, this is what I'm hearing. When they have a conversation loud enough where you can hear it downstairs, ours do that, all right? Quit hitting me. Okay, he's 3 inches from you. Why are you yelling so loud? So dad will hear and dad will come up and just take care of all this, all right? So that's what I see. You've got 2 golden calves, not just one, you got 2 going here. Then it gets worse. Didn't you banish the priests of Yahweh, the descendants of Aaron and Levi, and make your own priests like the people of other lands do? Because are the Jewish people supposed to act like the others? No. I mean, that's specifically right there in the law over and over. Do not behave like the Canaanites do. You are to be distinct. You are to be separate. God even came up with a whole surgery for the Jewish people to distinguish themselves. And it's a pretty profound surgery, I have to say, all right? Not that I remember it, but it's pretty profound, all right? And to distinguish themselves, because that's just not going to happen. And so he's throwing these accusations out at them. All right? Whoever comes to ordain himself with a young bull and 7 rams may become a priest of what are not gods. Again, he's saying your priests serve these golden calves, all right? But, verse 10, but as for us, do you see him kind of stand up a little taller? You guys, you did this, and you do this, and you did this, and you did this. But as for us, straighten his halo, all right? Fix all whatever he's got. But as for us, as for me, Yahweh is our God. Yahweh is our God. And look, we'll prove it. We have not abandoned him. What does Dad do in the 5th year of his reign? When Rehoboam established himself and his sovereignty, what did he do? The chronicler tells us very specifically what he did in the 5th year of his reign. He did what? He abandoned God. God says, hey, prophet, go tell him, he abandoned me, I'm abandoning him. Not a lot of argument, all right? Abijah's not got a good argument here. So they had abandoned him. We have not abandoned him. The priests ministering to the Lord are descendants of Aaron. Just making sure, all right, check that box off. Our priests are descendants of Aaron, not like yours, who you are anointing from every tribe if they just happen to throw a bull and a couple of rams up there, all right? The Levites serve at their tasks. They offer burnt offerings, fragrant incense to the Lord every morning and every evening. Check. All right, we got our priests right. We got the offerings every morning, every night. Keep going with it. They set the rows of the bread of the presence on the ceremonially clean table. Check. Got that one. All right. They light the lamps of the gold lampstand every evening. Check. Look at us. You have abandoned God. You got golden calves and you got priests of every other tribe. We, on the other hand, we're doing things right. Yahweh is our God. The priests they're of Aaron's descendants. The Levites, they're doing their tasks. They're doing their jobs. We'll do offerings. We get the bread out every day. We light the lampstand. Look at us. Look at us. Our little sheet right here is full of check boxes. and you've got golden calves. Watch this summary sentence. We are carrying out the requirements of Yahweh our God while you have abandoned him. Do you feel the love and the worship in that sentence? How many of you are carrying out the requirements of your Lord every day? In a profound act of worship, you are carrying out the requirements. Who wouldn't want to be a part of a religion like that, right? Come on to our church. We got all these requirements that you're obliged to carry out. Where do I sign up for that one? But that's what we do, don't we? We are carrying out the requirements of Yahweh our God while you have abandoned him. Look, God and his priests are with us at our head, or they are in the lead, all right? The trumpets are ready to sound the charge against you. Israelites, don't fight against the Lord your God, the God of your ancestors, for you will not succeed. Now, this is an interesting little comparison, and a lot of people make the comparison that this is very similar to Jericho, okay? I want you to think back. You got to rewind about 400 years here, all right? So at Jericho, they cross the Jordan River. They're into the promised land now. They come to the first city, the city of Jericho. It's high walls. It's big. It's strong. It's all stuff. And so what was the battle plan that God gave them? You're to do what? On the first day, you're to do what? Go do what? March around the city one time, okay? Now, who's in front? The priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant, or the Ark of the Presence, and they're holding trumpets. Did you get all that? Now look at this sentence again. Look, God and his priests are with us at our head. God, the presence of God, the Ark of the... It may very well be that they had the Ark of the Covenant marching in front of them. You guys, you grab the Ark of the Covenant, and you got in front, and you got your Aaronic priests who are out front, and you have these trumpets. Now, what's interesting, in Numbers 10, God told Moses, tell the people to fashion 2 silver trumpets, okay? Now, we have the shofar. That's just sort of a generic ram's horn, okay? But we have these very specific things called, I'm not going to try to pronounce the Hebrew word, all right? The Greek word is salpinx, all right? And they were 2 silver trumpets. Do we have that picture? Who's in the sound booth? Give me that picture. Okay, let me describe this, all right? Anybody been to Rome and seen the Arch of Titus? All right, just down the street from the Colosseum. There's the arch, these big arches. In 81 AD, the emperor dedicated the Arch of Titus. Jeannie, you're with me, right? You were just there shortly. You guys have been there too, all right? It's this huge archway. It's just to commemorate victories. It was to commemorate the victory of Titus over the Jewish people, the destruction of Jerusalem, everything, okay? So if you look at this is one of the reliefs in this archway, okay? And so you can see on the left side over here, you can see the menorah, right? The lampstand. That looks familiar, right? That's very Jewish-y, okay? Now, look over here on the right side. You can see something that looks like this. Everybody see that? Those are the 2 silver trumpets. And they were captured by the Romans and taken back to Rome in 70 AD. This is what Abijah is saying. We have God in front of us. Like I said, very well may have had the Ark of the Covenant out there in front of them, just like at Jericho. We have the priests right behind them. We have the trumpets. We have the silver trumpets out in front, right? And these trumpets would have been used to gather the Israelites together and to send them out into battle. And God said, when they blow the trumpets in the midst of a battle, I will remember them and I will deliver them, okay? So look at Abijah. They're doing all the things right, aren't they? One after another after another. He's got God in front. He's got the priests there. He's studied scripture. He knows what's going on. And he's got these trumpets, and they're ready to go. So he says to him, look at that 12 again. Look, God and his priests are with us at our head. The trumpets are ready to sound the charge against you. Israelites, don't fight against the Lord, the Lord God of your ancestors, for you will not succeed. and he stops. Now Jeroboam had sent an ambush around to advance from behind them. So they were in front of Judah, and the ambush was behind them, all right? So think of this. Half of you guys, let's just take you guys. You guys come around here, and you flank them, and they get behind you, all right? So now you're looking at this section right here, but that section just came around you and flanked you. Now they're in front of you and behind you. How you feeling right now? Feeling pretty confident? You got the Ark of the Covenant. You got the Aaronic priests out in front. You got the trumpets. We're ready to go. We got our legal right to do this. But when they come around the back, do you go, that's it. We will trust in our God and he will deliver us. Is that how it works? No, they panic. They freak out. Look at the text. Judah turned and discovered that the battle was in front of them and behind them. So they cried out to the Lord. Yes, they did. All right. Then the priests blew the trumpets. What happens when you blow these silver trumpets, these 2 silver trumpets? And again, when you look at the text, you'll see ram's horns. You got a lot of them. Those are just sort of special instruments for the priests. They could blow them anytime, do all that stuff with them. All right, but these are these 2 silver trumpets. And what's interesting, we see them 6 times in the Revelation. Do the math on that one. These trumpets, these salpinks, show up in the Revelation. When the last trumpet sounds, salpinks, these silver trumpets. The priest blew the trumpets. And the men of Judah raised the battle cry. Because, I mean, what else are you going to do, right? I mean, they're in front of you, they're behind you. We got to go with this God thing, all right? When the men of Judah raised the battle cry, I won't make you do that, all right? But you're all raising the battle cry, all right? Woo, all right? So they're raising, look what happens. God routed Jeroboam and all the Israelites before Abijah and Judah. So the Israelites fled before Judah. Run away, all right? And God handed them over to them. Then Abijah and his people struck them with a mighty blow, and 500,000 choice men of Israel were killed. And the Israelites were subdued at that time. Look at this summary sentence. Next verse. The Judahites succeeded because they depended on the Lord. The Judahites succeeded because they depended on the Lord, Yahweh, the God of their ancestors. Now, thank you, Grandpa Solomon, for writing what? Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, which says what? Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not. This is our word here, when it says they depended on the Lord, they leaned on the Lord. So thank you, Solomon. Thank you, Grandpa Solomon, for teaching us that lesson, right? Because he wrote it to his sons, which means grandsons us. So they did this. They did. They trusted the Lord. They leaned not on their own understanding, and God delivered them. So thank you, Grandpa Solomon. But there's a phrase that bothers me here. They succeeded because they depended on the Lord, the God of their ancestors. I know what I wanted to say. I wanted to say on Yahweh, the Lord, their God, his God. You see, they were still trusting on the God of their ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, David. I wonder how many of us are doing the same thing. He's not really my God. My grandfather, he was, man, he really knew God. And I'm kind of living off him. My parents, they're really strong Christians. And I'm just going to kind of roll with what they did. Come over here to 1 Kings 15. Because here's how I kind of prepared for this message. I read through the Chronicles version first, because Chronicles and Kings are going to have sort of parallel passages. And so I thought, well, that's a cool story. I mean, this Abijah's a good guy. I mean, he's leading this army. The Judahites show up with 400,000. They rout them because God sort of gives them over into their hands, and they're having this great thing. He's got all of his boxes are checked. He's doing everything right. God is there. The priests are in front. The trumpets even. I mean, who would have thought to bring the trumpets? But he brings the trumpets to this. He's got everything right. So I thought, I'm going to look at Kings and see what King says about him. If you go to Kings 15, 1 Kings 15, it does change his name to Abijah. All right, don't get too weird about that. It's just a Hebrew letter. And I looked back at my seminary transcripts the other day. I got 2 C's in seminary. Hebrew 1, Hebrew 2. C for see you later, I'm out of this class, all right? So don't ask me to explain it. In the 18th year of Israel's King Jeroboam, son of Nebat, Abijah became king over Judah and reigned 3 years in Jerusalem. Sounds familiar, right? His mother's name was Maacah, daughter of Abishalom. Abijah walked in all the sins his father before him had committed. And he was not completely devoted to the Lord, his God, as his ancestor David had been. So I read this and I'm like, wait. Look at the Battle of Zemaraim. He's doing everything right. He's got every box checked off. He's did it exactly the way he should have done it. But now you're telling me that the summation of his reign, the summation of his life was he walked in all the sins of his father. And if you go up a little bit into verse 14:22, it says, Judah did what was evil in the Lord's eyes. They provoked him to jealous anger more than all their ancestors had done with the sins they committed. They also built for themselves high places, sacred pillars, Asherah poles on every high hill and under every green tree. There were even male cult prostitutes in the land. They imitated all the detestable practices of the nations the Lord had dispossessed before the Israelites. That was during his father's reign. And what does it say about him? He continued to walk in the sins of his father. And his heart was not completely devoted to the Lord his God, as David's had been. So I'm sitting there reading him and going, how can this be? Because this battle went perfect. God came to his defense. He came prepared. He did everything he was supposed to do. God came to his defense. God routed the enemies. And yet you look at the summation of his life and he wasn't completely devoted. So I'm sitting there going, okay, what does this summation tell me about this battle? And it hit me. He did everything right. He checked off all the boxes. But that's it. But that's it. He trusted in the God of his ancestors. He followed the law. He did everything the way he was supposed to in this one moment. But look at the rest of his life. When he was put on the big stage, he did everything right. But what happens when he steps off the stage? What does the author of Kings say about him? He continued in the sins of his father, and he was not completely devoted to the Lord his God, or to the God of David. What about you? You probably have a good sheet. A lot of you have been in church all your life. You're good folks. And you've checked off every single one of your boxes. But what would the summation of your life be? What would it be? He did everything right. He walked into a building once a week. Check. He read a chapter a day. He read Oswald Chambers, My Most for His Highest. 2 checks for that one. But his heart was not devoted. Oh, his hands, he was on schedule. You look at his schedule, man, that guy's a Christian. But you look at his heart. In Isaiah, God says of the people, their lips speak of me, but their heart is far from me. Jesus actually quotes that back to the Pharisees. Why? Because what are the Pharisees really good at? They got their list. They got their boxes, but their hearts are far from me. I believe there are 4 types of motivations for worship. For some reason, I've gotten into Les Miserables lately. It's awesome, isn't it? So I'm watching, and the officer is asked, and this is like the 1930s version of the movie. I saw it just the other day. They asked him, he says, why do you do what you do? Is it for ambition because you want to move up and gain prominence? Or is it for duty? That you just do what you do because you're supposed to do that and that's why you do it? He says, I do what I do out of duty. And I'm sitting there and I'm going, oh my goodness, that's most of the church. We do it because that's what we're supposed to do. If we don't do that, then God will not be happy with us and God won't love us anymore. So we line up and we gut it out and we get up on Sunday morning and we drive to that building. And we get up and we read a Bible and we kind of just work our way through it. And we fight through all these things. And we're doing it because it's duty and we're supposed to do this and we're supposed to do this. If we're going to call ourselves Christians, this is what you're supposed to do. And I'm just sitting there going, oh God, please tell me I haven't done that. And then I thought, what if it's ambition? You know, Benny Hinn's come out and rejected all the prosperity gospel. Y'all can do with that whatever you want. I don't really care, all right? But how many of us get up and we do the Christian walk? We do carry out the requirements of Yahweh's law because we want God to pay our bills. We want to get that promotion at work. I was joking with one of the coaches at Texas High this week. And I said, we need to have FCA. We're trying to start up FCA, so y'all pray with us about that. Stan's helping me on this. I said we need to have it on Friday morning, right? Because we'll have a lot of the players show up on Friday morning, because if they show up at FCA, what might just happen Friday night at the game? All right? Y'all are with me. See, y'all are laughing because don't laugh at them. You've done it all your life. You think I got to get my brownie points with God. Let me tell you about another bad motivation. Duty, ambition, because you want to glean something out of this. Affection. Stay with me on this. A lot of times we say, we love Jesus, we love Jesus, we love Jesus. And that's good and that's great. Don't hear me wrong on this. But I want us to be very careful that we do not have affection. Just purely affection for having affection. You've seen the people, they fall in love because they love the idea of what? Of being in love. And it's just this bliss, and then life hits, and what happens? I heard it said one time, emotion without truth will rarely last beyond 2 weeks. Emotion with truth. Emotion with truth will last for eternity. You see the difference? So hear me carefully. When I say your affection for Christ, if it's not directly tied to that bloody old rugged cross, it's just a temporary emotion. And the last is worship. When you do what you do out of a sense of absolute worship, that this is what Christ has done for me, what can I do for him? How can I live my life? You'll take your sheet of all your box checks and you'll throw it away and just say, you know what? I don't have a list of things I'm supposed to do. I'm not carrying out the requirements of this. I've got one requirement, and that's what? Love one another. Period. End of sentence. End of discussion. End of moralities. End of ethics. Period. Love one another. Why? Because of that cross. Period. Because he loved me that much. I will love everyone just like that. That's your calling. That's your motivation. Don't love people because they can love you back. Jesus taught pretty clearly on that, right? Don't love people because it's your duty. Wives, how would that work out for you? Hey, honey, I brought you flowers. Oh, why? That's so sweet. Well, it's my duty. Right down the disposal. Don't do it just go, well, I just love you. No, we want to love people because we have that as our example. We have the cross as our truth, that God created us and loved us. And in spite of the fact that we have sinned and turned away from him, he became flesh and died in my place and in your place. So when I go out into the world, I don't go out with a list of do's and don'ts. I don't go out with a list of boxes that I'm supposed to check. I go out with that in my mind. Why? Because Paul encouraged the Romans. He says, brothers, I urge you, I plead with you, I beg you, in light of the mercies of God, not in the mercy of God, but not just because he's merciful, because of the mercies that he showed you at Calvary, to present your bodies, the totality of your bodies, as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to him, because that is your reasonable service. It's the word, we get our word logical from this word. And that you should not conform yourself to this world, but what? Be transformed, how? By the renewing of your mind, so that you may live that which is holy and pleasing to him. Why do you do what you do? Why do you do what you do? Please tell me it's not out of duty. Please, please tell me it's not out of ambition. Tell me it's because you got up this morning and renewed your mind to the beauty of the cross. And that has overwhelmed your ethic. And that's all you can imagine doing, is loving people all day because of how you've been loved. I want to read one last quote. It's from Matthew Henry, who's written a famous commentary. He said, if Christ means anything, he must mean everything. You with me? If Christ means anything to you, he must mean everything. But if he means something, he really means nothing. If Christ means anything to you, he must mean everything to you. But if he means something, if he only means something, he really means nothing. Why will you do what you do today? What role does that cross have in the decisions you make, the words you speak, the actions you take today? Find yourself there. Find yourself at the cross, and you will know how loved you are, and you'll know how cherished you are, and then you'll go treat people the way God has treated you. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for just this story and just the way the chronicler laid it all out and gave us all these things. And so, Father, I pray that